Hi, I'm Tim Shotney, and in this video we would create a velocity randomizer as max MIDI effect. I prepared this MIDI clip here for testing purposes, and the sound which is triggered by this MIDI clip is very velocity sensitive. And we would change velocity on one of these MIDI notes, you would hear that the sound quality changes pretty much. Like that. So this is a very good now setting for testing of a MIDI effect which we would build right now. Let's start creating. Let's do this template, go to edit mode, and then zoom in. Now we can unpack the raw MIDI data which we receive in MIDI in. We use again MIDI parse as in the last video. And then if we want to modify the incoming velocity, then we would need to unpack the list with pitch and velocity from the first output of a MIDI parse. So I just play it back now and then unpack this data, this list containing the MIDI note and the velocity of it, like that. And perfect, we get it here. Now, as in the last video, we would use very similar mechanism for triggering the random velocity only on note on event. It would mean that we would use a comparison operator and compare the input values with 0. If it's bigger than 0, then we get here 1 on the output, otherwise we get 0. And with this value we could use a select object, and if we have here on the input value 1, then we get bang on the output. Great. And with this mechanism, we can already trigger random values in the range of 128. It means they will start from 0 and end with 127 maximum value. So now we get these random values from the random object, triggered by note on event. Only one thing here, if this is a velocity, then we lose a velocity which is equal to 0 on note off event. And this we could fix by using a trigger 0 object, which would happen if we get a 0 on the output of this comparison object. So like that. Everything works great, and now we're ready to pack it back into the list. First is MIDI node, then the velocity, randomized velocity. And then everything, this information we need somehow to pack to raw MIDI message for MIDI out. We use also, as in the last video, a MIDI format message, and then connect this pack output to the first inlet, and then everything else connects directly with the MIDI parse object. And now we just change this connection to MIDI format. And we hear that it works. Very good. Nice. So let's also make it more interesting and create controls for minimum and maximum random values for velocity. We create these live dials which are already working between 0 and 127, both. And now we want to find minimum and maximum value between those two controllers. So we use two objects which are also called minimum and maximum. Then we connect the first controller like that, and the second one we actually want to connect with help of trigger bang integer, because the second inlets of these two objects are cold. And if we want to get calculation of minimum and maximum value all the time, even when we change the controller which is connected to cold inlet, we would need always to use this trigger bang integer connection. So now we would get these two values on the output, and you see that actually we get here minimum and maximum. So now what we do here is we send minimum value to an additional object, which is plus operator, and we send this minimum value to the cold inlet, while we send a random value to its hot inlet. And for the random object, we would need to find the difference between maximum and minimum value and send this difference to its cold inlet. So we do it like that, and then also here we need trigger bang integer. So the calculation happens always. And then we send it like that. So in this case now, let's play back the MIDI. And then in this case now, we would get these random values exactly in the range which we set here. Let's make it small so we can see really that it works. So there's one problem here. I made a wrong connection. We would need to connect actually maximum to the hot inlet and to the cold inlet. With trigger bang integer, we connect minimum, of course. Otherwise, we get the wrong calculation. Like that. So now we get the random in the range which we set with these two live dials. Perfect. And so then we just send this value to the pack. And then we also send this trigger 0 to pack. Otherwise we won't get a proper note of event. And now we get our random velocity in the range which we set with these two dials. We could set it like that. Let's have number box here just to see what we get, and let's save it, close, and see. That it works as we expect. And of course you could modify this algorithm further as you wish, and I leave it to you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see us in the next video. Bye bye.